Like we are mutually exclusively seeing each other. And that
So
means socially
you're
too.
you're not up for somebody who is exclusive with you and
And
four
everybody
other
else?
people. Yeah.
No, but I would still stay in those relationships sometimes. Not anymore.
Hey, welcome to the Dating Detox Show, your place to get some practical advice on dating and relationships that, imagine this, might actually work in a real world relationship. I am Eric Wooten, and with me, as always, Megan Toma, master coach. And here's what we're going to talk about today. I'm excited. We're going to talk about when to stay or when to walk away. That's the question
Yes.
often, right? Sometimes we stay too long, sometimes we leave too early. So the real question on the table is, how do you determine when you should stay, when someone's serious about you, when it might be a good fit, and when it's time to just go, we probably need to walk away. So how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm really excited to talk about this topic because I have always been known in my past, at least, to, as I would say, stay in things past the expiration date. I would always stay far too long. So I'm excited to talk about this big time.
Is that just because you're an eternal optimist, or was there a lot of
I'd
other
like
stuff
to think
involved too?
so. I'd like to think so. I think I would choose to see the good in people, which is sounds very,
Sure.
benevolent and lovely, right? And it would also, I would bypass what I really felt and what I knew was really a good fit for me. So it never really served me in the end. Yeah, it was a tough lesson for sure. Yeah.
All right. So what are your either personal parameters or when working with some of your clients, what are you evaluating in this whole, should I stay? Should I walk away? What's on the table?
Right. So, as someone who has a long track record of staying too long in relationships, I have narrowed it down and done heavy, extensive research to figure out what to really look for, when to know you can take someone seriously or not. So, here's what I look for, especially in the early stages of dating. I look for continuity. How often are you seeing each other, talking to each other, planning dates, that sort of thing? Continuity, monogamy, like we are mutually exclusively seeing each other. And that
So
means socially
you're
too.
you're not up for somebody who is exclusive with you and
And
four
everybody
other
else?
people. Yeah.
No, but I would still stay in those relationships sometimes. Not anymore. No. So, right. So, like, you
So
know,
where's that point though? Because we've talked about this before and we both kind of line up with we should
yeah,
date multiple people in the beginning. And so
totally.
you're talking about we have moved past that beginning stage. We have decided to be exclusive. And at that point,
Yes.
you would
Yes.
like some fidelity to just
Yeah.
this relationship. All right.
Some monogamy, that means socially as well. Like I'm off the dating apps or when we're out in the real
Okay.
world, like I'm with I'm seeing someone. So yes, this is a little bit later stage dating because I do believe we should be dating, multiple people. That's part of the dating process. And
Yeah.
then the third reason to take someone seriously is you have shared long-term goals. You want the same things out of life. And that's, as we talked about on our podcast about potential, it's like there's so many of us wasting time with people who don't want kids or they just don't share the same long-term goals, or they don't want to get married one day and you do. Okay, well then what, like, how can you really take that person or that relationship seriously if
Hmm.
you don't have those shared long-term goals? So,
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So back to continuity. What
mhm.
what is realistic, or what is personal preference versus, because you were talking about how often do we see each other, are we planning dates, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. Is that unique to each person, or are there some, do you believe there should be
totally.
some
No,
markers
I
that
think
everybody hits?
I think it's unique to each person. I mean, what my best friend would make so much fun of me. She's like, Meg, you want someone who like texts you throughout the day and at least calls you once a day. She's like, I can't handle that. I can't imagine if my husband had did that in the beginning. So it is totally unique and personal, I think, to everybody. When you're dating though and getting to know someone, I will say, I think you need to see them ideally once a week if possible, just to
Sure.
make some, right? Like progress in the dating relationship. So, but I do think it's unique and special to anyone and everyone. We all have our preferences, but you know, I think we can all tap in and know what it feels like to be prioritized when someone is making us a priority, when we feel like someone is genuinely interested in getting to know us. There is some form of, frequency in communication, continuity, consistency. That's what I'm talking about. But it does get to be unique, I think, to every person.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So I also see some people who have a hard time weighing this, should I stay with this person? Does this make sense? So obviously those values and some of those but I often see people who are not clear about what they want in the relationship. So the stuff you just said, how often are we talking? How often are we seeing each other? And there's a lack of clarity. And if you don't communicate it, I think it makes it hard to be able to turn around and figure out how do I evaluate another person if I haven't first clearly communicated, this is how often I expect to be seen by you, or this is how often I would like conversation. These are the things that with somebody I'm in a relationship with, I want affection or I don't want affection, or I want to hold hands in public or I don't, or when we're hanging out, I want you next to me on the couch or don't sit next to me because you're too hot, or, because I think a lot of times that stuff's not communicated.
Right.
And then people will just sit there forever. And you're like, man, are we going anywhere? Are we doing anything? So how would you evaluate, should I stay? Or is this person serious around that? Communicated expectations. What do you expect to see in response to no? Yeah, this is somebody worth staying for versus no.
So this is really good and it's very nuanced in my opinion. And this is actually something that I'm going to be teaching women on soon, the next few weeks, about actually sharing, like vulnerably sharing your wants and needs. Like for me, what that would look like is telling a man, hey, I really love to hear from you once a day. I'd really love a phone call once a day. That helps me feel connected to you. That helps me evaluate and get to know you and for you to get to know me. Like this is for your benefit too,
Mm-hmm.
um so and a lot of us are really scared to do that, or they're like, what's too much, or am I, we're trying to play the cool girl and act like it's no big deal, and that doesn't serve us. It doesn't work for anybody. So again, like you said, it's every individual getting clear with, what is it that I really want? How often do I want to see the person? How often would I like to talk to them? And then actually having, the courage to share that, to share it with the people that you're
Mm-hmm.
dating. I think we need to do more of that, not less of that.
Where are you willing to
Mm-hmm.
compromise? So you gave a sort of what your friend said you would want
Mm-hmm.
versus what your friend would want.
Right.
Is there a willingness to compromise? Should you compromise? And if so,
Yes.
to what level?
Yes. So I have compromised this hugely. I can specifically remember a relationship where he was fantastic at planning dates, spending quality time together, but that man hated the phone. He hated calling, he hated texting. Like he could go all day, probably several days without saying anything and be happy as a clam. Me, on the other hand, did not work for me. Didn't work. And that was our biggest point of contingency. So I we had several talks about it, and I did have to get to a point where I was like, okay, I'm not gonna like hear friendly text messages throughout the day. I'll get a phone call at night. That was our agreement. He's like, I'll call you once a day. I can't text you all the time. I was like, cool. That was my compromise. And some people listening to this will relate to me and think, yeah, like I want someone who like texts me throughout the day. And some people will hear that, like my best friend, and think, my gosh, girl, like you really need all that. But I love that. And it's not all day, every day, but it's some kind of checkpoint to know you're thinking about me, to just have a connection point during the day. And
Hmm.
I've had to give up all of that at one point and just get a phone call. But it worked. I mean, that part of the relationship ended up working. So I was able to compromise, but it was
Do
not
you
easy.
think you would want that long term?
No,
Or
I
were you
don't.
secretly hoping that as the relationship goes on, maybe I can get him to move more and more my direction?
I think we always think that to a degree. I know I do. However, I actually thought, okay, let me take this back. I actually would think to myself, he's so great at quality time. Maybe if things really do progress and we get engaged and we get married and we move in together and we're like living under the same roof, I won't need him to text me all the time. Maybe not. But I am such a verbal communicator. I love to talk. That's why I love doing podcasts. I could talk to people all day, every day. I mean, that's my job. I love
Hmm.
to talk. And I know that about myself. And instead of making that wrong, I just get to make it okay and vulnerably share that and request that. And either a person can meet it or they can't. I am willing to compromise. However, I think it's really important to know ourselves and know what kind of continuity and frequency and consistency we're looking for.
Yeah.
So,
Because we'll never know, but
yeah.
I would have wondered if you got married, moved in with this person,
Yeah.
if not only did you not get the kind of verbal engagement you wanted, but you also got less of the planned quality time because we don't have to plan a date to see you because I
Right.
see you every day. So I would have wondered if that would have dropped and the other would have not been there, and you would have been like, what are we doing here?
Quite possible. And clearly that relationship didn't work out anyway. And I think, just again, it was an alignment of values being out of alignment. So yeah, it probably wouldn't have worked. Probably wouldn't have worked.
So
And it didn't.
for you to identify if somebody is serious, it's the continuity, kind of where are we touching? Am I a priority?
Yes.
Obviously, you're the only person, monogamy, and the shared values kind of vision are three of the
Yes.
areas you
Long-term
look at.
goal.
So
Yes.
when do you determine if you're talking to somebody and they're on the fence? I just don't, there's some things I like, there's some things I want to change. They don't seem to be changing. How do you know when it's time to walk away?
I think truly it's nuanced. I think it's different a lot of times. So I'm going to share with you a very, nuanced story now. So I talk about consistency, frequency, continuity. That's very, very important to me.
Hmm.
I've also dated a lovely gentleman who would see me all the time, would text me, voice note me, call me. Like I got so
Oh,
much
you got it
attention
all.
and connection. Oh, I was like, this is great. I'm set.
Right.
But you know what? Oh, and he was committed. We were monogamous. We weren't seeing anyone else. It got to that point. But we could not get on the same page with a shared long-term goal. We had different ideas of what that looked like. So it's almost like you can't have a 2/3 relationship. Like
Hmm.
those three things have to be in place, I believe. So um, typically when we're looking at, should I stay or should I go, especially earlier on, I look at how much effort are the two of you putting into this relationship. Are you the one calling and texting all the time? Are you the one trying to dig something out of them, trying to get a date or time on the calendar, something out of them? That's not, necessarily someone that's perhaps looking for what you're looking for.
Hmm.
We want to feel special. We want to feel important. We want to feel, again, pursued, prioritized, especially as women. So when that's not happening, typically that's my sign to just, exit stage left. Because if you're not putting in the effort now, my
Right.
gosh, what's it going to be like in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? It's a quality that I think we should all be looking for early on in dating. So Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. If I'm not getting much from you in the season of your best,
yeah,
we're probably so this guy, you were getting all the stuff that you really like that we were just talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
But so he clearly enjoyed the relationship, prioritized the relationship, but you weren't on the same page with where it would go, i.e.,
yeah.
marriage, or so he was just kind of like, I don't know if I ever want to do that or what.
Yeah, we had well, we had different ideas of spiritual beliefs. He was very, very principled, as he would say, in his beliefs, and it
Principled.
was
Okay.
principled. And again, amazing man, amazing human, but there wasn't a lot of wiggle room. There was nothing in gray. Everything was kind of in black and white. So,
Gotcha.
I mean, I'm just showing very openly and transparently and how we would raise children and what a marriage would look like and the foundation and that sort of thing. It wasn't fully in alignment for him. I'm very much in the gray. I do think there are certain things that are absolutes, and then everything else is pretty darn gray. And for him, it was nope, everything's black and white. So it wasn't going to work long term.
Yeah.
No
No,
matter
that,
how many of these other qualities were so perfectly in place. I mean, perfectly in place. That was a big part that we couldn't overlook. And it would have been wise. It would have been unwise to overlook it.
yeah.
So
Yeah. So if
yeah,
those three things aren't lining up, then
yeah,
that's for you, that's pretty clear.
yes.
Are there any instances where those are lining up, but there's some other, I don't know, red flags or stuff that would make you go, I still think you might want to rethink this?
In early stage dating, right? Like early on.
Either
Yeah,
early or
either.
later. Yeah.
You know, I'm always checking in with like my intuition, which is very dialed in. And I think, my belief is like God speaks to me through my intuition, through my gut. And if I'm left questioning a lot of things and
Hmm.
I'm like sending screenshots to my girlfriends, like, what do you think about this? Like, we're analyzing text messages, or I'm sharing about a conversation we had that I can't make sense of. I mean, yes, like there are going to be times where our partner or someone we're dating confuses us, but when that's consistent or it's happening a fair amount of times where you're noticing it, that's a red flag for me. Like I shouldn't be
Gotcha.
left questioning a lot. Um, Also, I'm always, the phrase is, actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
Well, if we were to relate that to the story I just shared, not really, because his actions were showing consistency, pursuing me, like I was so important to him. And yet, when we used our words, when we started talking about things, we realized it was out of alignment. So I always say it's not about actions speaking louder, it's do their words match their actions? Or are their
Yeah.
actions matching their words? So he'd be saying one thing, right? And saying, I don't know if this could work. I don't know if that would work. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know like how that would mesh together, how we would work through that. But hey, free tomorrow? Can I see you? so that's I'm always looking for, do their actions match their words? And I'm checking in with myself and noticing my external behavior if I'm trying to outsource answers from other people all the time, because I feel so confused and conflicted about the messages I'm receiving from the person. That's a pretty good indicator that I should probably walk away.
Yeah. All right. I'm
Yeah.
going to give you some characteristics of a healthy conscience because
Okay.
I believe there's, I mean, we got to line up on the stuff you said, but then I think there are also like we gotta see how this person, kind of responds across the board. Because going back to, I think if you've communicated the things you want, the things you desire, that kind of stuff, and the person's unwilling to adjust or make those adjustments, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. We want different relationships. It's probably not going to work. So let me give you some characteristics of a healthy conscience and see what your thoughts are on some of these. So, the first one is just demonstrates guilt and remorse. Somebody who has the ability to feel bad and be remorseful when you share something with them. Is that
Yes.
fair?
Oh, totally fair. Definitely look for that.
Okay. Ability to delay gratification. What do you think about that overall?
Oh, I love that. It shows discipline and patience. Because I think if you want to build anything, a relationship, a business, whatever, you have to have delayed gratification. So
Yeah.
yes to that.
Yeah. I mean, that speaks to finances, that speaks
Mm-hmm.
to sex, that speaks to, you know, a number of things. Like, if I've always got to have what I want right now,
Yeah.
that's going to be a problem across the board. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is empathy, being empathetic. Can they put themselves in your shoes?
Totally. Yeah. Really, really important. Especially if you are very empathetic yourself, if you're anything like me, you want that in a partner for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've run into some people that have worried me in this area because the way they come across is almost as if you can't make it make sense to me the way I need it to make sense, I now am justified in probably not making the adjustment or taking you at your word. And that's when you have to logically convince somebody that your feeling or experience in the relationship is valid, dude.
Yes.
That's a dangerous road to run down. All right, another one: control of emotions and impulses. They can
Yep.
control their emotions and impulses.
Yep. Totally. Yeah. You don't want someone who's like flying by the seat of their pants. Um, I mean, yeah, I don't want anybody living just on their impulsive. Impulsive behavior scares me.
But
So
some of it could, back to the show we did on love bombing and stuff. Some of that could feel good early on.
if it's impulsive, as if like, hey, I just planned a spontaneous trip for us this weekend, or a spontaneous date, or I'm just going to tell you what to bring, and I'm not telling you anything about what we're doing. Like that kind of impulsivity feels great, but
That's spontaneity. I'm
yeah, it's
thinking,
more
okay, the
spontaneity,
person who, you know, just swings by your work because they wanted to see you. See, that sounds great.
right?
Um, but they also didn't check if that was okay, if that was a good boundary.
Right?
They, you know, kind of basically wanted to do what they wanted to do in the relationship. So,
Yeah.
and it's funny because a lot of the things that we like about people in relationship can also kind of have a dark side to it, right? So you take
Right.
somebody, I love the fact that they're laid back and easygoing, but maybe in a relationship they become passive and emotionally avoidant. And you're
Right.
like, oh, that just like the passionate, oh, they love to text me, they love to call me, they love to do all this kind of stuff. Um, can be the opposite and be, you know, too emotional.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
It's
next one you already kind of, oh, you have something on that?
no, no. You go. You go.
Next one you already kind of said was just consistency between expressed beliefs and behaviors. So if you say you believe something and you continually do stuff that goes against it, and I see this all the time with people in the dating arena of faith and Christianity, people who claim to be of faith and have Christian values, but do a lot of stuff in their life that do not represent that, which becomes confusing.
Yeah. 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 Again, it's that integrity, like, and actions matching words.
Yeah. And the last one is dependable and responsible.
Yeah.
Seem pretty basic, but I think a lot of times we are willing to not have standards of requirement around some obvious areas. Like if someone's got a healthy conscience, these are the things that are represented by that.
Yeah.
They can actually say sorry. They can actually be remorseful. They have the ability to put themselves in your shoes at times. They can delay gratification. They don't have to act on every emotion and impulse that they have in their life. They can be dependable and responsible. There is some consistency between what they say they believe and what they actually do. But I think a lot of times we're willing to dismiss that because we
Totally.
just really love them.
they're so cute. You don't understand. He makes me feel like a way no one else has. Yeah, we'll always make excuses, for our chemistry, our attraction, our wounding, really is what that comes down to, a lot of it. And, until we start to do, I think, some of this deeper work and having these kinds of conversations and realizing that, we really, we get to choose someone who's actually good for us and not just someone who looks good to us. Or who feels good to us. Like sometimes we just have to tell ourselves no. Sometimes self-respect is just telling ourselves, no, this person that has all these things that seemingly look good on paper or they have going for them doesn't mean that they're the right match for me. If they're not hitting these basic things that you just listed, it's an automatic no.
Yeah, no, that's good. So when to stay, continuity, monogamy, shared values, and vision for the future. I would throw on there all those characteristics of a healthy conscience are good things to evaluate. And then if you got somebody where that stuff's not lining up or they are unwilling to, I would say unwilling or maybe even unable to make the adjustments that you're expressing and desiring in the relationship, then probably time to walk away.
Probably time to go.
Call it a day. Awesome. Any other thoughts on that? I know you mentioned a class for women that you were talking about at the start of this around vulnerability and sharing. Tell me about that, and when's that coming up?
That's April 25th. So it's a little ways out. It's on a Thursday at 5:15 Mountain Standard Time. So 6:15 CST. And it's a totally free class. I'm going to be teaching women how to vulnerably share things like this, like their needs, their wants, their desires early in dating, so that they're more confident in, speaking those needs to men. And so they have a way higher chance of getting them met. And I'm also teaching about how to live with an open heart, because a lot of us are walking around with walls up around our heart, scared of getting hurt again, scared of getting rejected. And that's no way to live. So that's
awesome.
A free class.
Well, we will, I'll put a link to that in the description area on YouTube, show notes on podcast platforms so people can check that out. And if you have not downloaded your free Modern Daters Playbook, go grab that at datingdetoxshow.com. We'll put a link to that as well. If you need some help on trying to find out what you should be looking for, what are you looking out for? How do you know if you're ready to do this thing called dating? We've got it all in there. You can grab that for free as well. That's all we got for you this time. We'll see you next time. Right back here.
Bye.